Oops, I'm going to knock that over. Okay, my name is Rachel. I'm one of the co-founders of SlutWalk UConn and the CFO of Revolution Against Rape. Kathy already gave you a little insight into the history of SlutWalks, but I'm going to tell you the story of ours. SlutWalk UConn started with a Facebook message. I found an article about SlutWalk that wasn't particularly in-depth, and I sent it to my friend Matt, who's here today. I said something like, I'm not really sure how I feel about this, but we were working with the Violence Against Women Prevention Program at the time, and someone brought it up in a staff meeting, and a group of us decided that this was something that we wanted to do, and it started a whirlwind of planning and organizing. I had barely any knowledge about sexual assault, about rape culture, or victim blaming, but the more I learned, the more I felt like this was something real that we needed to speak about, that we were doing something right. Last year, we were fortunate enough to bring two of the original SlutWalk founders, Heather Jarvis and Colleen Westendorf, here, which was a beyond amazing experience. But that was just the beginning of what we hope will become a legacy here at UConn. For me, it's been a long personal journey since I found that article and dove headfirst into starting a SlutWalk. Since then, I've tried to educate myself about rape culture, about assault, about victim blaming, and the effects these things can have on our community. And as anyone who does this kind of work can tell you, it's not always easy. It's been a really empowering experience, but it can be exhausting and draining. Some days you just feel overwhelmed. Learning and reading and talking about rape culture so much has made it a part of my reality. In fact, it's always been there. It's ingrained in the society we live in, but since coming to college and learning about it, rape culture has become like a lens I cannot take off. I cannot separate myself from the things I know about rape culture and the things I see every day. It's a scary fact, and it's horrible to see the roots of assault in the everyday things around me, but now I'm almost resigned to it. This is my reality. This is the world I live in, the one I grew up in. I know these things happen, and I can no longer ignore it. Doing whatever I can to fight back gives me a little peace of mind, but just because it's my reality doesn't mean I have to accept it, for myself or for other people. Because I have a little sister who's 16, and a little cousin, she's 10, and they mean the world to me. And if this conscious awareness that I'm living in a rape culture makes me scared for myself, it's nothing compared to the terror and anger and sadness I feel that this is the world they live in, that every one of my family and friends lives in. I would give everything I have to make sure that they are not one of those 1 in 4 women affected by sexual assault. So that's why I'm here, and why I'll still be here, and I won't stop fighting. Saying that rape culture is my reality doesn't mean that I have to accept it, and it sure doesn't mean that I can't change it. These are my reasons why I need SlutWalk. But over the past year, I've met and been inspired by so many awesome survivors and heard their stories, and their reasons to need SlutWalk have become my reasons too. I found that far too many of my friends are survivors, and I never even knew about it. Last year at this event, a group of really awesome and brave kids from E.O. Smith, my high school, came to share their stories, and that blew me away. It made me realize that never once in high school did we talk about rape or assault, but our ignorance hadn't kept it from affecting us. This is unacceptable. None of us ever had the resources to know what to do if an assault happened to ourselves or our friends. This summer, I met a survivor who I respect an incredible amount, who thanked me for telling a group of students that an assault is never the victim's fault. She said it was something she needed to hear, because she couldn't shake the feeling that she should have done something differently. That I was the first one to tell her so is something we can't allow to happen. There are so many survivors who are suffering in silence, and it's not their fault. They've never had anyone to tell them that. We can't let that happen. We need to tell every victim and survivor that it's not their fault. We need to tell everyone around us that we need to step up and hold perpetrators accountable. We need to understand that each of us plays a part in this culture, and that our actions or inactions can make a world of difference in just one person's life. We need SlutWalk for each and every survivor and victim who never had someone to tell them that they should not be held accountable for the conscious decisions of another person. Last year in my speech, I spoke to you all about power, the power of language and the power we all have in creating our society. Last year, I spoke to you all about how we need to take responsibility for our words, our thoughts, and our actions, and those of the people around us. But the thing is, you all know that. That's why you're here. This year, I'm going to speak to you about something a little different. It's a question I've been asked too many times to count since I first started working on this event a year and a half ago. Why? Why do we need SlutWalk UConn, a march to end victim blaming? We've already had one. Haven't we made our point? It's a far too easy question from those people who have never experienced a sexual assault, have never seen it happen, have never consoled a sobbing victim. Do we really need this? Do we really need to be here? My answer is, again and again, yes, we need this. We need SlutWalk because this July, a judge in Canada ruled that a 42-year-old hockey coach was guilty of sexual exploitation after he made sexual advances towards one of his 16-year-old players. According to the victim, the man threw himself on top of him and grabbed his crotch. But the judge said he couldn't believe the victim's account of the story because any male athlete in that situation would have punched the man out. Never mind that the boy was intoxicated, that this man was his coach, an authority figure who he was living with at the time. We need SlutWalk because a fellow UConn student told me the night she was raped, her rapist walked into her room, pointed at her bed, and said, "I'm sleeping here." That night, despite the fact that she was intoxicated and unable to consent, her rapist ignored her repeated no's and raped her twice while other people were sleeping in the room. When she told her parents about the incident, they asked her why she didn't say no louder. We need SlutWalk because a man in Sweden was acquitted from a charge of attempted rape, despite the attack being described as brutally violent, because the victim was a transgender woman with male genitalia, so the attack could never have been completed. We need SlutWalk because one of my friends who runs a feminist blog received countless hate comments calling her a slut and saying she deserved her assault after she posted a picture of the dress she was wearing on the night of her attack. We need SlutWalk because this summer, Representative Todd Akin from Missouri made a statement that if a rape is legitimate, the female body has a way of preventing pregnancy. The 32,000 women who become pregnant from rape every year would speak differently. And the fact that he thinks some rapes are more legitimate than others is a very strong symptom of this rape culture. Can any assault on another person ever be called legitimate? We need SlutWalk because I know too many people on this campus who have been raped or assaulted after consenting to kiss their perpetrator, who believed that this one action handed over the keys to another's body. Because of their consent to one act or a few, the perpetrators ignored their no's and stops, never thinking of the harm they were doing to the victim. We need SlutWalk because whether we are showing all of our skin or none of it, we are still human beings who deserve respect. These stories are why we march. They're not isolated incidents. They're happening every day. Every day there's a victim somewhere being told that what happened to them is their fault because of their clothing, because of what they were drinking, because they trusted a friend enough to be alone in the room with them. Every day, survivors have to listen to the message that their assault was not legitimate because their attacker was a significant other, or because they didn't or couldn't fight back, or because a weapon wasn't involved. Every day, there are people tearing themselves apart because society is telling them that the actions of another human being, the choice to commit a violent crime, are their fault, and that is never, ever the case. But the thing is, it's not enough for us to know these things for ourselves. It's not enough for us to bow our heads and whisper these words to our friends, to comfort each other in secret and hope for a time when there's no more sexual violence. We can't wait until everyone knows the pain we've felt, for ourselves or for others. This issue is on all of us right now. It's not good enough for us to sit back and say, we know rape is wrong. We know it's never the victim's fault, but we're good people. We'd never rape anybody. Because as sad and scary as this is, not everyone knows these things. And we can't let them keep being ignorant because their ignorance is hurting people. We need to step forward and say that any time someone doesn't respect another person's right to consent, it's assault or rape, no matter what. We need to police the statements of others that minimize the violence of sexual assault. We need to start saying something when we see something. We need to start holding ourselves and our friends and our family accountable because we know the impact that we can make in even just one person's life. Because we are the ones who get to dictate this society, and we are powerful. And because we've had enough.